now, the geopolitical landscape in the Middle East, it's really crackling with tension. We're seeing this incredibly intense, escalating situation unfolding between Iran and Israel. And looming over it all is the significant shadow of U.S. involvement. It feels overwhelming, frankly.
It really does. This isn't just headlines, is it? It's a proper high-stakes drama.
Exactly. With potentially catastrophic consequences, not just for the region, but, globally. So our mission today on The Deep Dive is to try and untangle the layers of information from the sources you've shared with us.
Right.
We're going to dive into, everything from the cutting-edge military tech being talked about to the really sharply conflicting political stories.
And the human impact, too. That's crucial.
Absolutely crucial. The very real human impact on the ground. We want to cut through the noise, give you a truly well-informed perspective, maybe uncover some surprising facts you haven't heard.
Sounds good.
At its core, this whole thing seems to revolve around these allegations that Iran is developing nuclear weapons.
Yeah, and the counteractions being considered by Israel and the U.S., preemptive actions.
Which Iran flatly denies.
Yeah.
Right, they have their own counteraccusations. It's a complex web.
It is. Definitely complex.
So let's start pulling at some of those threads. When we talk about the huge stakes involved here, our sources keep bringing us back to this one, extraordinary piece of military hardware.
The B-2 Spirit bomber.
Ah, yes. The devil of the sky, or ghost of sky sometimes.
Ominous names. And it's not just any plane. Each one costs billions of dollars. Billions.
Incredible value. But what makes the B-2 Spirit so uniquely terrifying in this scenario, so strategically revolutionary? It's not just the price tag.
It's the stealth, right, what it enables.
Precisely. What's fascinating here is just how advanced the B-2 is technologically and how that gives it this unique capability.
How so?
Well, its design is, it's a marvel if you've seen pictures. It has that distinctive, almost bird-like batwing look. And critically, its exhaust system. It's positioned right on top of the aircraft.
Okay. Why is that important? It's specifically designed to avoid thermal detection from below. Heat signatures,
Ah, clever.
Very. So it can fly almost completely undetected by radar or any conventional defense systems. Its ability to just not be seen.
Yeah.
It basically negates traditional air defenses.
A true game changer.
It really is. Genuinely considered the world's most advanced aircraft because it's built to penetrate highly defended airspace without any warning. That gives an unprecedented advantage for a preemptive strike, especially in a situation like this.
And this specific mission it's reportedly being prepared for, it's almost audacious. Targeting and destroying a deeply fortified nuclear facility.
Fordo, yeah. Built inside a granite mountain in Iran.
Inside a mountain. Our sources even contrast it with, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, just to highlight the sheer scale of destruction being considered, puts preemptive in a stark light.
And to actually achieve that against a target like Fordo, buried deep, you need equally advanced, equally destructive weapons.
Which brings us to the bomb itself.
Exactly. The GBU-57, the bunker bomb. And this isn't just any bomb, it's huge. Weighs 13,600 kilograms. That's 13.6 tons.
13 tons.
Each one costs tens of millions of dollars.
Wow.
And look, a single bomb, even a single pass from a B-2, probably wouldn't be enough.
Right, because it's so deep.
Exactly. The plan, reportedly, would need multiple rounds. These planes, each carrying several of these bombs, hitting it again and again to penetrate and destroy a facility buried that deep in solid granite.
It's an operation of truly staggering power.
Staggering.
And for something like that, so deep inside potentially hostile territory, the logistics must be just mind-boggling. How do they even sustain that? Keep those planes in the air without becoming vulnerable?
Well, that's where the really advanced logistical support kicks in. Our sources mention tanker aircraft.
Flying gas stations.
Pretty much. And these tankers are also worth hundreds of millions of dollars each. They're designed to refuel the B-2s right there, midair.
So they never have to land.
Exactly. They can stay airborne, potentially indefinitely, without touching down. That's critical because landing would mean detection, potential counterattack.
Right, if they had to use a base somewhere nearby.
Precisely. This way they can conduct operations for days if needed, stay out of reach, keep that stealth advantage the whole time. It just underlines the incredible sophistication and, frankly, the cost involved in this kind of global strike capability.
Okay, so we've laid out the extraordinary military side of things, but what's really fueling this fire? What are the core stories, the narratives driving this whole conflict?
Yeah, that's key. The core of the Israel and U.S. narrative, as presented in our sources, is this belief that Iran is right on the verge of getting nuclear weapons.
And they see that as
an existential threat. explicitly, particularly for Israel, being a relatively small country.
So the proposed solution is?
Pretty clear. Preemptive destruction of Iran's nuclear sites. And potentially, maybe even a change in Iran's government.
That's a big step.
It is. And Israel claims they already control Iran's airspace. They've reportedly attacked other Iranian nuclear sites before, like Arak, the heavy water reactor.
Which Israel says is inactive now?
That's their claim, yes.
Yeah.
And also the Natanz facility. They frame these actions as absolutely necessary, preventing a future, much bigger catastrophe, in their view.
That claim about controlling Iran's airspace, how credible is that, really, given Iran's own capabilities?
Well, it's definitely contested. Our sources highlight that, yes, Israel has shown it can conduct strikes, historically, but Iran does have significant air defenses, a robust military.
So controlling might be an overstatement.
It might refer more to an ability to penetrate undetected rather than, say, outright dominance. It speaks to that ongoing high-stakes game of cat and mouse in the region. Now, on the other side, it's important, as our sources point out, that the global media landscape often leans towards pro-U.S. companies. So naturally, the Israeli perspective often gets more airtime.
Okay.
But it's absolutely crucial to understand Iran's counter-narrative. It paints a very different picture.
So from Iran's perspective, what are they saying? How do they explain their nuclear program?
Well, Iran vehemently denies they're developing nuclear weapons for aggression. They insist their uranium enrichment is purely for civilian use.
Like what?
Things like electricity generation, education, health applications, peaceful purposes.
And they see the accusations
As fabricated. They accuse Israel of basically making things up to justify military intervention, maybe impose a government more friendly to Israeli interests.
Okay.
And Iran also maintains its long-standing position of not recognizing Israel as a state. They often call it occupied Palestine.
Right.
And adding to that, Iran's deputy foreign minister issued a stark warning. He explicitly said any U.S. involvement would cause hell in the region, stated emphatically, this is not America's war.
A direct challenge.
A very direct challenge to any external intervention.
So beyond the military planning, the political back and forth, we need to bring the focus back to the immediate human impact. Lives are being lost, disrupted. These are the real casualties.
Absolutely. And the reports from both sides are stark. Israel's health ministry reported over 270 injured in general strikes, and 71 specifically in that Soroka hospital attack.
And on the Iranian side?
Their health ministry reported over 224 killed, 1,200 injured. And then there's HRANA, the human rights activist news agency based in Washington. They reported over 639 killed in Iran since the conflict began. So while both sides have suffered, the reports indicate civilian deaths are higher on the Iranian side, a grim reality.
And that specific incident at the Soroka hospital in Beersheba, Israel, that really stands out. What exactly happened there?
The damage was significant. Reports mention a caved-in roof, shattered windows, expert analysis. People like Trevor Lawrence, an explosives expert, Justin Bronk at RUSI.
The think tank.
Yeah, the Royal United Services Institute. They suggest it looks like a direct hit, not just, a blast wave from nearby. The damage seems too concentrated.
But Iran claims otherwise.
Right. Iran's claim is they targeted a military site close by and the hospital was just damaged by the shockwave. And you hear these harrowing accounts from paramedics evacuating critically ill patients, some on oxygen tanks, amidst the chaos. They described it as just a terrifying experience.
Understandable.
And the World Health Organization, of course, condemned attacks on health facilities, emphasized their protected status.
Amidst all this, we're also seeing a lot of political movement, aren't we? Reactions from the U.S., the U.K.
Yeah, Donald Trump's stance has been particularly notable. Sources indicate that while he initially promised non-intervention...
Right, that was a big theme for him.
It was. But now he's reportedly holding high-level meetings, keeping options open for military action against Iran.
Although he denies the reports.
He does. He put out a statement saying, the Wall Street Journal has no idea what my thoughts are concerning Iran. So it leaves a lot of ambiguity about where the U.S. actually stands.
Okay. And the U.K.
UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer has publicly urged Trump to step back. He's advocating for a diplomatic solution instead.
Diplomacy over military action.
Yes. And it's also worth noting, the UK hasn't offered Israel direct military help, like intercepting Iranian missiles. Suggests a more cautious approach from London, perhaps?
It's such a complex picture, not just for Iran, Israel, the U.S., but for everyone, really, which raises the question, how are other nations, other publics, reacting to this volatility?
Well, you see divisions even within Israel itself. A poll showed strong support for the attack among Jewish Israelis, like 83% backing it,
Okay.
but significant opposition from Israeli Arabs, 68% against. That internal division is profound.
Yeah, adds another layer entirely.
And further afield, India has taken a very neutral, wait-and-watch approach.
Why is that?
It's not just caution, it reflects this delicate balance. India has friendly ties with all three key players, Iran, Israel, and the U.S.
Right, so taking sides is complicated.
Extremely. It challenges any simple idea of alliances, shows how interconnected things are, and then there's the humanitarian spillover.
What kind of effects?
We're hearing reports from Herat in Afghanistan of thousands of Afghans fleeing Iran because of rising prices, work halting due to the conflict. It shows how the impact spreads far beyond the direct combatants.
A ripple effect.
Exactly. Though, on a diplomatic note, Iran's foreign minister is set to meet European counterparts in Geneva to discuss the nuclear program. So, despite everything, dialogue channels are still apparently being pursued.
So if we try to bring it all back,
Mm-hmm.
what we have is this intense core tension. Israel argues for preemptive strikes against what it sees as Iran's nuclear weapon development.
While Iran steadfastly denies that, insisting it's all for civilian purposes, energy, education, health.
And all of this is playing out under the huge shadow of U.S. power and influence. Their actions could completely change everything.
The stakes for the region and the world just couldn't be higher.
Mm-hmm.
And the human cost, it's already tragically clear. And given Iran's explicit warning, that U.S. involvement means hell in the region, and considering these sharply conflicting stories about Iran's nuclear plans, alongside confirmed attacks on civilian places like hospitals, it leaves us with a really critical question to think about.
Which is?
What responsibility do global powers actually have here? Is it to de-escalate at all costs, or to take decisive action they believe is necessary for their own security? How does one nation's pursuit of security inevitably impact the stability, the safety of an entire region, maybe even the world?
It's a very delicate balance.
With no easy answers at all.
Absolutely. We really encourage you to keep reflecting on these complex issues and definitely be informed as things continue to develop.